Jim Rossiter. I work at First Citizens Community Bank. I've been doing mortgages for like 20, almost 25 years now. I kind of specialize in first-time home buyers. Over the years, I've kind of gravitated towards them. What I want to do today, pretty much, is just go over the process of like, all right, I want to buy a house. What do I have to do, right? So, Matt's going to say, all right, listen, you have to get pre-approved. Come over and talk to Jim. All right. So what I do is gather all your information. I see where you work, pull your credit, how much money you have in the bank, the whole situation, right? And then I run your credit, and then I try to come up with a game plan for you, where you fit monthly, what's on your credit report, how you can be a better buyer, meaning like increase your credit score, and then what programs to fit you in. I mean, there's tons of programs: FHA, conventional, VA. There's 4 grants I'm going to go over today that, like I said, they all have their own guidelines and restrictions. So once we do that, once I get your information, run your credit, I'll give you a call back and say, all right, listen, I have you pre-qualified for 300, 350. Could you go a little higher maybe? Maybe you want to be a little lower. It all depends on the taxes. And then I go over your credit report as well. Because the credit report is the main thing, right? So the lower the credit, the higher risk you are to the bank. The higher credit you have, right? Because you're paying your stuff on time. You look better to a bank. And you qualify for more, you get better rates. So I always try to do a little credit coaching in the beginning. That's why when people come to me sometimes, they're like, I found a house today, I want you to run my credit. I'm like, we should have did this 3 months ago, because Comcast put a collection on there because you didn't return a box 3 months ago you didn't know about, and you're not 740, you're 640. You know what I mean? So when that happens, like I said, you kind of diminish your bargaining power and your buying power with the sellers. They like to see conventional deals, right? I mean, listing units, they like to see conventional. Like if you're under 700, 680, you're going to fall into the FHA range. If there's 10 bids on a house, FHA goes right to the bottom. They look at the conventionals first, just because FHA is a little more riskier. That's like I said, I like to do the credit coaching in the beginning. The big thing now, and it's probably a lot of people your age, are student loans. There's 3 people in the last month that have lates on their student loans they had no clue about. They all just came out of forbearance, and I guess there's like a 30-day period where they just ding you with a 30-day late, and then they give you 30 days to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, I can speak for this myself, but I had mine set up like on an auto pay, and then it froze for a while.
Right.
But if you have that on a card from 2-3 years ago, it might not be an operational card anymore.
It just happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about people and kids that have great credit history, right? Great payment history, no debt. And I'm like, you were late on your student loan. They're like, I didn't even start paying them back yet. Well, they just come out of forbearance. They don't tell you, or maybe you get some kind of junk mail. I really don't know. But it's happened 3 times in the last month. So I don't know if it's because of the presidency or just the date. You know what I mean? Like I guess.
I think the date triggered it because they were frozen for a while, and they just kept pushing back the date. And then eventually, I think the date just came where it's UO again.
Right. So that's all stuff. Like I said, I always encourage people. Like, listen, if you're thinking about it, even in the next 6 months, just call me or call lender. You know, I mean, there's plenty of lenders out there. You can call me if you want, obviously, but just have your credit pulled just to make sure you are where you want to be. Because I mean, nothing's worse than go looking at a house and you're like, I love this house. Numbers work, everything works, and your credit's not where it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? You can't do anything about it. So like I said, even if you're thinking about it, just call. You know what I mean? And just go over a consultation. Doesn't cost you any money at all.
Yeah.
All right, so going over that part. Once I pre-approve you and say, all right, listen, you're good to go, then you can go looking for houses, right? So when you go looking for houses, next thing everybody asks is, all right, what's my payment? How much money do I need down, right? The good thing right now, I just sent everybody should have a little printouts that I gave you in the folder. There's lots of grants that are out right now, specifically in the city. I'll go over 3 of them because one of them just ended. KFIT, PHFA. That's the one we utilize the most, right? That's for any county in the state of Pennsylvania. You need a 660 credit score at least. They offer you a 5% grant towards your closing costs. So if it's a $300,000 house, you get $15,000 applied to your closing cost and down payment. I mean, take it if you can, right? It's 15 grand.
Yeah.
They have income limits. Everything's based off household income limits as well. So you can't make over 136 in the city for a 2-person. If there's a 3-person, if you have a kid, then it's 168. So, I mean, a lot of first-time home buyers, younger buyers, they fit in those parameters. You know what I mean? We've done.
I literally looked it up the other day. I think it was like 28 or 29 the last 3 years.
Just of that program. I mean, it's the most famous. I mean, it's the most popular program that we do, and we're like a preferred lender with them, so we can kind of call them, and we have a very good relationship with them.
The one thing too that's pretty convenient is the rate, and without getting too far into what interest rates do, but the rate with FHA and PHFA is usually lower than what the conventional rate is. Like right now, what do you think it is? Like 6.25.
It's 6.25.
And then the conventional rate's probably like what, high 6 or 7.
6.75.
So you're getting half a point better for that. Not only that, but you're also getting all the grant money, right? Which is like 5% of whatever the purchase price is.
So if you couple that 15 grand with a seller's assist, right, just a small seller's assist, you can literally need $2 grand to buy your first house.
Yeah.
I mean, people are buying duplexes doing this, and they're getting their mortgage payment cut in half because they have somebody living on top.
And I think a lot of times too, people think like, I feel like this, especially like coming like a used car salesman when I tell people that, because they don't think it's realistic. But I went through all my stuff and done it. Like, we've done this a bunch of times. The key is just, if you're trying to do this with the most popular house in the neighborhood, it's going to be tough because there are going to be multiple offers on it, right? But if there's a house that you're like, hey, it might need a bathroom or it might need this sort of work, where it's like, where you can, instead of it costing you 20, 30 grand to close, well, now it costs you 2, and you can use that extra money to fix that bathroom that needs work. You know what I mean? And it just, I feel like myself, I feel bad telling people that sometimes because I feel like they think I'm trying to sell them something, when in reality, like, it is something that we do a lot and often.
Definitely. So that's the one we utilize the most. The next one that's coming out, 422 is the first front door grant. So that's $15,000 you get towards your closing costs. You can couple that with the PHFA if you qualify for them both. First front door is a little more stringent though with income. They want you making less money to give it to you. So if it's a one-person household, it's $65,000. If there's a two-person household, you can't make over $75,000. It goes in like $10,000 increments. But if you fit, I mean, people do. If you fit in that criteria, you can get both grants. You don't need, again, you need $1,000 for closing, but you can apply like whatever's left over to the principal or buy your rate down to get yourself a lower monthly rate. So I mean, it's just very good timing right now, like for the first front door, because it comes out, like I said, 422. I'm not kidding. It'll last for about 2 days. So what we do is we get in there. They open it up at 6 in the morning. I like to stack all my applications. Like if anybody in here qualifies, what I would do is talk to you, get your information, get what I need to apply. And we literally come in at 6 in the morning and we have about 20 of them. We just pump them through the system to get the application.
We have all our buyers basically, like everyone I know, at least that I have, anyone that can apply for that, we have them like weeks out, ready to go, get all their stuff to gym, all their ducks in a row as far as the paperwork goes, and the day it opens, you put it through, and for the most part, you have success the first day when you're all ready. It's the people that like the day of are like, hey, can I still do this thing? Like you kind of have to have all your ducks in a row as far as that one goes.
So,
is it strictly first-time buyers, or could you be someone who owned a home before?
So if you haven't owned a house in 3 years, you're considered a first-time home buyer. Or if one of you own a house and the other one's a first-time home buyer, for the first front door, you would qualify for it if you bought it together.
Gotcha.
So, like I said, they all have their own guidelines and restrictions and everything. So again, my numbers, I don't know if you have a folder, but my number's in there. You just give me a call if you have any questions.
The good thing too is we do these a lot where like their team has a relationship with the people at PHFA, because God forbid, but like this happens in real estate. Sometimes your numbers might be off or something. You got to give them a call, and I'm telling you right now, it is really nice to have people that have a relationship with them, because they could pick up the phone and be like, how do we fix this? Whereas like sometimes when you have people that don't do it often, lending wise, like they'll be like, who is this person? They won't pick up the call, or if they do, it's like they just don't have a relationship, where it's not that many people, believe it or not, that have like a plug with PHFA like they do.
So, any more questions?
No, sorry.
No.
You're good. Please, if anyone has any questions or anything at all, just feel free.
Yeah, shout them out. I just want to give you a heads up with the first front door grant. So we just had another offset of that. It's called the Keys grant. So that's for first-time home buyers, minorities, and first-generational home buyers. We started loading the stuff up at 6 in the morning. We got an email at 8 o'clock in the morning saying they're done. You know what I mean? So I'm not the only bank. There's 5 banks, 6 banks, 7 banks that do it, but we all do the same thing. You know what I mean? We all get up at 6 in the morning, and we all have applications to stack, and as soon as they run out of money, it's done. We got an email at 8 in the morning. So that's why I tell everybody, like, listen, like, get your stuff in, get it to me, you know what I mean, and get me what I need. Yeah. So many people called me that same day, like, you know what, we're on vacation, I forgot to send you over the 2 pay stubs, and I asked them 3 times, and I'm like, it's closed, you know what I mean, like, you have to wait for the next one to come out. Yeah. So, like I said, that's very important. That one comes out 422. Like I said, they're a little more strict with income. They don't want you making as much, because how they look at it is, listen, like, this is for a first-time home buyer, it's for somebody that needs it. If you're making $150 grand a year, get your money somewhere else. In layman's terms, that's what they're saying. You know what I mean?
And there's a ton of other ones. Like, what's the you might have said already. What's the income max for just K-Fit and Flex, right?
So in Philly, it's 136 for a 2-person household. For 3 to 4 or anything above, it's like 168.
Right. And that's why a lot of the, like, we've done a lot of them is they run that all the time. Like, that's not the same one where, like, you have to apply and get approved. Like, that one, for the most part, if you are within the criteria, you're going to get that grant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like again, that's 5% of the sales price. Just gets knocked right off the bottom line.
That one's big. Like, I bought a house earlier last year. I use that. I mean, you get the better rate, and you're getting 5%. So, like, let's just say it's a $300,000 house, and it's gonna cost you $25,000 to close. Well, now you're getting that 5%. It's $15,000. Now you only got to pay $10,000, right? And it's a pretty great. That one's pretty. It's not that stressful as far as things you got to do. Like, I think you need a termite when you do an inspection, and you need to do like an online class.
There's one other grant in the city too right now that's out. It's called the Philadelphia Lift Grant. That's out right now. That's a little more harder to get because what you have to do is you have to go get counseling face to face. You have to go see a counselor, and they kind of dictate what you qualify for, and they're even tougher with their debt to income ratios. So they want you to, like, say FHA's 47 front end, 57 back end debt to income ratio. That might be Greek to everybody here, but they are 37 and 47. So like I said, if you qualify for a $350,000 house with me, just a straight loan, you would probably qualify for a $265,000 loan with them to get that grant. But again, it's still worth, you know what I mean? It's still worth trying, you know what I mean? So, like I said, there's a lot of money out there that people don't know about. People think you need $30, $40, $50, $60,000 to buy a house. A lot of these programs, and especially like with Matt, he's and his team, they're they're very keyed in the Northeast. I can't tell you how many deals that we've done where you kind of know both sides, and you're just like you just kind of plug them
I can
in.
kind of explain it. So we have like a thing like we call it VIP program, but basically my dad sells a ton of houses in Northeast Philly, 19154, 19114, and we sell them in somewhat too in Montco and Bucks, but we have a lot of sellers, believe it or not, that are okay with our buyers. Like they appreciate that it's someone that we know, or it's from the neighborhood, or that we also know because they went to gym. Like, hey, this person's qualified. It's not like some random person. And for a seller, like, we just tell them, like, hey, you could get, this is what, say the house, we think it's 300. We go, hey, if you think you could put it on the market, you might get more, you might get less, but we could show it to this person. You don't have to do the stress of having people go through your house, things of that nature. And we could be like, hey, if you're comfortable and it works out where we can kind of make both parties work, we can get them in before it hits the market. That's one that's really popular, and you'd be surprised. Like, I think a lot of people think in general that sellers are all out to make the most money they can and they want the highest bidder. That is true for some people, but a lot of these people have had their houses for 20, 30 years, and they're making $200-300, so the extra $5,000 isn't what they want. Like, they have a relationship with their neighbors. They want someone that they know is going to come here and not be a nuisance to the neighborhood and the block and stuff like that.
They'll pay that for convenience
exactly,
and peace of mind.
They'll do that. So we do a lot of them programs. Like, we did like 7 or 8 VIPs a year, I would say. I think last year we did 9. So those are great. And for a buyer, it's great for you because you can go through, for the most part, you can go through and you're not going to have to get in a bidding war with some of these people over some of these houses. And the other thing too is, like, a lot of times you're able to get an inspection. You know what I mean? So, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit with Kanan afterwards.
Yeah, just to finish up, like I said, once I kind of go over the programs and say, okay, listen, I kind of plug in where you fit, then it's kind of, the ball's in your court at that point. Like I say, all right, listen, where you looking, you know, and you'll say, all right, far northeast. So I'll just grab a house off the internet and say, all right, it's 325. I'll run the numbers for you, what you'll need for closing. And then again, if you're comfortable with it, then, you know, you and Matt start looking for houses.
Yeah, I can kind of talk about that process a little more.